this topic of the physical mother, because personally I'm convinced that we will not get very far in really honoring and caring for Mother Cow and Mother Earth if we cannot even respect our physical mothers, right? They have been serving us for so many years. So if we think, being a mother has no value, and we don't give respect, we will never get there in protecting and serving the cow, Mother Cow or Mother Earth. So I feel we have to start with a physical mother. Otherwise, it is only some hobby, some lip service. Yeah, the cows are very nice, but it is not serious. It is not deep. Okay.
Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padang Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. It's been a very interesting evening. We heard so many very thought-provoking, incisive points, both of philosophy and practical life and experience and culture so far. It may seem a little ironic that a sannyasi has to be called upon to speak on the mother. But as Krishna Kshetra Maharaj mentioned, everyone has a mother. So even those who are sannyasis have had mothers. And the contribution of the mother is, of course, paramount. There is a little research story you may have heard about. Some researchers at some university or something wanted to put a monetary value to the mother. So these researchers, they followed a particular lady who was a mother of some kids. And they went around with her and studied her lifestyle. And then for everything that she did, for which of course she wasn't getting paid, because she was serving her kids and doing everything else, they put a monetary value. So she would drop her children to school. So well, she was doing it. So had they hired a taxi or maybe hired a driver, it would have cost something. Then she was cooking for them at home. So if you hired a cook who would cook 3 or 4 times a day, it would have cost something. So she was a psychologist, she was a counselor, she was a nurse, she was everything. So for each of them, they tried to see how much they would have to pay to get someone to come and do all of this. And after they went through the whole exercise, they came up with a figure annually of 150,000 pounds, UK pounds. So in terms of US dollars, it would be something like 200,000 US dollars. So that was what they estimated the monetary contribution, the value of the mother. Of course, in and of itself, it's also a very interesting point of view. But it nevertheless misses something very, very important, which is something that money cannot buy. So even if somebody had hired cooks and drivers and nurses and everything, there would still be a very essential missing element, and that is the love and care that the mother gives to the child. Now, it is not possible for a paid person, generally speaking, to have that kind of spontaneous love and care that the mother would have for her children. Srila Prabhupada, in that very famous quote, I'm sure you've all heard it many times, mentioned how child worship was more important than deity worship for a lady devotee who had just delivered child and was very busy with looking after the child and could not do her pujari seva. And Prabhupada said, never mind, take this service very, very seriously. These children are not ordinary children, so you must do it with great responsibility. They are Vaikuntha children. Yes. And in the course of explaining the idea of devotional service, he gave the example of the mother. He said devotional service means service with no expectation. Just like mother, he said. When mother serves her children, there is no expectation. She is not like a maid servant who is getting a salary or a wage. She simply serves out of affection, out of love. And then he said, this is a little sample of pure love. Elsewhere he mentions how the love of the mother for her children is the closest that you can find in the material world to the pure love of the spiritual world. But then he goes on to add a word of qualification to that. And he says, but when the children grow up, if they are disobedient, then the mother might withdraw that love. It happens. The intensity of the love of the mother for the grown-up children may or may not be the same. Sometimes it may, but usually when the children start acting in certain ways, then there is a possibility of the love diminishing. So Prabhupada says she may withdraw her love, but in the spiritual world, it doesn't happen like that. So the love of the mother for the child is something exemplary. Is not done with any expectation, not for profit. I heard a quote the other day which somebody sent me, that if there is a lady who is speaking and no one's listening to her, it's very likely her name is Mother. So we've all been sons and daughters of some mother, and we probably know we have subjected our mother to that, to the deaf ear. So it's a taxing service, as we've been hearing. However, giving love and affection and care is not the only thing that a mother does. There's another very important element, which is giving good instruction, good education, and very, very importantly, imparting character and getting the children imbibed with devotional service. Now all these are very, very important duties of the mother. So if one only gives love and affection but doesn't give these other parts like good education, good instruction, devotional service, character, then there's something missing. The role of the mother is incomplete. So therefore the two important things, number one is love, care, affection, etc. And second is giving character, education, instruction, devotion, etc. Now, I want to read out some quotes from people whom we don't consider devotees, and they're not from India. And to top it all, many of them are former presidents of different countries or kings. And I thought it would be interesting to just read a few of these quotes to say what they thought of their own mother. So I've written them down. And it's interesting because we don't hear leaders, whether political or leaders in other spheres of life, talking like this now. So there's a world of difference. And these quotes, the earliest of them is probably 100 years old, and the others are probably another 2 or 3 centuries before that at the most. So the fact that leaders are speaking about these things, about their mother in this way, and today we hardly hear many people speaking about it, indicates that there's a huge shift in the culture. And the difference is that we have become excessively materialistic and godless. In any country of the world, even up to 100 years ago, there was some degree of religious culture. And along with that came values. Along with these things came a family culture, a family spirit, and the role of the mother was very much an essential part of that. But the more and more we've become materialistic and gone away from God, in whichever religious culture of the world, we see that the family spirit has started to get tenuous. It's weakened, and the role of the mother has become shaky. And she no longer is seen to do the same kind of role that these gentlemen are talking about as they used to do before. So I'll read these quotes. The first 4 are former presidents of the US of A. Abraham Lincoln. No man is poor who has had a godly mother. Now, never mind, they may or may not be devotees, quote unquote, but if there's something we can learn from them, no harm in taking it. So, no man is poor who has had a godly mother. Second, John Quincy Adams, I believe another president. All that I am, my mother made me. Short, succinct, but says the point. Abraham Lincoln has an almost exactly similar quote, another one. Then Jefferson, another president. Mothers make men. Number 4, George Washington. All I am, I owe to my mother. I attribute all success in life to the moral, intellectual, and physical education I received from her. And there's some other prominent personalities. Mark Twain, the famous humorist and writer. It is at our mother's knees that we acquire our noblest and truest and highest ideals. He may or may not have been referring to God, but we can take that in our way. For us, what are the noblest, truest, and highest ideals? That's what the mother is supposed to give to the child. Thomas Alva Edison, the inventor. My mother was the making of me. These are all from the internet. Sometimes we can make some good use of it. Another personality, George Herbert, I don't know who he is, I didn't have time to inquire. But his quote is good, whoever he may be, God bless him. One good mother is worth 100 schoolmasters. Many times our school teachers in different projects where I travel, they complain that the parents put such a heavy burden of expectation on them, and they're supposed to do everything to bring the child up. But actually the school is fine, the teachers are fine, but the real responsibility rests with the mother and the father, and especially the mother. Next is another gentleman called D. Beaufort. Again, I don't know who he is. The future of society lies in the hands of mothers. Very strong statement. The future of society lies in the hands of mothers. So by implication, if the mothers are not respected, if they are not valued, then what happens? We're going to have a society which is in shambles. And then Napoleon. We come to France. The future destiny of the child is always the work of the mother. Let France have good mothers, and she will have good sons. And now I come to Vladimir Lenin, the architect, one of the architects of the communist revolution in Russia, almost exactly 100 years ago. And as you know, the communists, the Marxists, are atheists. So Lenin was definitely an atheist. But he had this cultural understanding. He says, give me a good mother and I will give you a good nation. This I didn't get for the internet, this I remembered from many years ago. I can't cite a reference exactly. And then finally, a Spanish proverb. An ounce of mother is worth a pound of clergy. Clergy means religious people. Meaning that the mother is supposed to give all the good religious or spiritual or devotional education to the child. Because the child can go to the church or the temple or whatever, only so often. But the mother is with the child practically all the time. So these are some quotes. And naturally, this aspect of the mother being the instructor, being the one who imparts spiritual knowledge and values to the child, is stressed upon in our Vedic scriptures as well. We have King Rishabdev saying, Guru na sasyat, svajano na sasyat, pita na sasyat, janani na sasyat, daivam na tatsyat, na pati na sasyat, na mochayedya samapeta mrityum. He gives so many categories of people, like the guru, the relative, the husband, the wife, the mother, the father, even a demigod. One can't be all of these things unless one delivers one's dependence from the cycle of birth and death. A very, very important responsibility. Again, we have these famous proverbs. This one is from the Upanishads, Matri Devo Bhavo, Pitri Devo Bhavo, etc. Achari Devo Bhavo, Atithi Devo Bhava. Treat the mother, treat the father, treat the guest, treat the acharya or the teacher as God. Of course, this is not Mayavad philosophy, but it indicates that these are personalities who deserve our utmost respect. So today we see that there is not that much respect given to mothers, not only in general in the society, but the children also, they don't give so much respect to the society. The other day one devotee was just telling me that there was a shocking video that went viral on the internet in India, I believe, where one 17-year-old boy was actually beating his mother in Bangalore or somewhere. So naturally this caused so much alarm and everybody was questioning what's happening. Yes. Of course what's happening is that we've lost our devotional and spiritual culture. So all the values that go along with it have been lost. And as Devaki Mataji was saying, then the mother is just reduced to being a cook and a cleaner, and that's all. And then everybody just makes demands on her and she loses her role as a giver of spiritual and devotional knowledge and culture. Also, there is a Subhashita, a nice saying that says that the mother is 1,000 times more important than the father. In the Narada Pancharatra, it says 100 times more important than the father. Regardless, whether it's 100 or 1,000, the point is that the mother is the most important person in the house, in the Grihastha ashram, even more important than the father. Srila Prabhupada also emphasized it, as I said earlier, about the child worship and the deity worship. And now I'd like to just tell two contrasting stories. One is about this brahmachari, ISKCON brahmachari, who comes from a family of Madhva Brahmins and very cultured background. And from the village in which he was born, sometimes young boys, as young as 7, 8 or 10 years old, were picked up for sannyas. And they actually took sannyas at that age. So when the children took sannyas, of course they went through a whole rigorous routine, astrology and so many other things. So they were given sannyas at 7, 8 or 10 years of age. And when the boy took sannyas, then there would be a grand ceremony in the village, and everybody in the village, including the elders, would come and offer obeisances to this little boy, because now he was a sannyasi. The sannyasi is the object of respect from everybody. So they would come. But there was only one person who is not supposed to offer obeisances to that sannyasi. No prizes for guessing. Who? The mother. The mother of the sannyasi is not supposed to offer obeisances to the sannyasi. Rather, the sannyasi is supposed to offer obeisances to his mother. He may or may not offer obeisances to other ladies, but to his mother, he has to offer obeisances. And just as others would make way for the sannyasi and part ways, similarly, the sannyasi would have to part way for his mother to go first. So this shows that in the Vedic culture, the mother was given so much importance, regardless of whether one was a sannyasi or anything else. We've come a long way from that. And I made a brief reference to how in the modern day world, this culture has been so thoroughly lost. And I'll give you an example of that from the world outside of India. But in any case, India is rapidly catching up with all the ills that we're seeing everywhere. We're not taking the good qualities from the West in India. We're taking all the bad qualities. There are so many good qualities to learn, but in India, people are not learning those good qualities. They just pick up the bad ones. So I remember many years ago, this was like more than 25 years ago, there was a Bhagavatam class. And the topic, the purport had something about mothers. Now I don't remember so clearly. And the speaker was elaborating on that. And there was a Western brahmachari who was new. He had just joined a couple of years ago, maybe 1 or 2 years ago. And then after the class, he came up to us and he was saying, you're saying the mother should be respected, etc. But how can I respect my mother? I said, what's the problem? Now, please don't get me wrong, I'm just citing what he was saying. I don't mean to speak it in a demeaning way or in a derogatory way, but I'm just speaking the reality of life today. He said, he was in his 20s at that time, so his mother must have been obviously at least in her 40s or something. He said, my mother, she goes every weekend to the beach and she's in her bikini and she has so many boyfriends. I live away from her, but she has boyfriends coming in every now and then, and she has multiple boyfriends. Now, how can I respect her? The image that the mother has, and it's just I can't relate to it. And some of the other Indian brahmacharis were shocked because they could never in their mind imagine their mother in a bikini, or to see that the mother would bring in different men, different nights, and this was something quite shocking to them. And so his dilemma was, what is this mother idea? I just can't relate to it because he's not been raised in that atmosphere. But that was not the case at the time of these gentlemen whose quotes I read out. Because so it's not something that just started out of nowhere. You can see it coincided with the rise of materialism and godlessness in the society. Even up to 100 years ago, there was a strong religious culture even in the West, in Europe, in America, and everywhere. And therefore these traditions and the mother being what she was, and she would have a certain profile where the children would just love her and respect her, and therefore you had these big people, the presidents and all that, kings, who would remember their gratitude to their mother, Obviously, it was different. Their experience was different from the experience of this brahmachari. Because they had that culture. It may not have been Krishna conscious in the way we understand it today, but sure enough, there was a certain strong religious culture there. So this is the state of affairs all over the world, and it's happening a lot in India as well. So I don't think in India anymore we can say that, this is Indian culture. Now the modern Indian culture is just catching up very rapidly with the worst of what the modern world has to offer. So these are some thoughts for us that if we revive our devotional culture and revive the roles that our different individuals have to play in all the different ashrams, and if everybody plays a role, it's not just that the mothers are not, not just the mother who was doing that, the father was also doing that, and everybody else around was doing that. So we're not just blaming only the mothers, the fathers, I don't know, whoever else, everybody. So the whole society has degraded to such a degree that these things, people can't relate today. What mother, what family are you talking about? They just can't understand it. So there is a great need in our devotee society to establish ideal examples of what a mother can be, and naturally what a good father should be, what a good brother, sister, son, daughter, whatever. All of these are ideal examples that we need to show through our movement. Okay, I've crossed my 20 minutes. So, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
I definitely would be interested to get those quotes of you, Maharaj.
Sure.
Yes. Another quote I remember, the hand that rocks the cradle
rules the world. Yes. There was a book by that name.
Yes. Do we have any questions to Maharaj? I didn't get any papers. If there is no...
They will get Mataji behind you.
Behind me? Write it on a piece of paper. We want to select. Oh, this is not so related. It's about college preaching to the girls and so on.
Yeah, something about the topic.
Yeah, not so much. Well, can I ask a quick question?
Yes, please.
What do you think? What simple steps do you recommend for us here to somehow start with this, to reintroduce this culture of the respect a mother is meant to be given? What can we do about it?
Well, I guess there could be many angles to look at it, but I have a very simple approach, and that is, I'll throw the ball in the court of the men and say the men should set a good example, and then women will be happy to just do the needful. The state of women's society today is partly, not wholly, but partly very strongly because of the way that men have also acted. And unless that is set right, we can't just have the logic of the half hen, or just one half of it working and the other half not doing so. So I think the men have also to set the proper example, and then automatically the ladies will appreciate that. It will come naturally because it's part of the natural psychology, the nature like that. But when the men become exploitative and not responsible, then the women also react. And that's what we see in the world today. And it goes by so many other philosophies and so on. So I think it should begin with the men. Then automatically, but begin with the men not in terms of demanding things from the wife or you should be a traditional wife, but you should be a good husband as well. You have to, do what you're supposed to do as a Vedic husband rather than just expecting your wife to be a Vedic wife. If you set the example, then the ladies will follow. Yes, okay? All right, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
To conclude.